way, as you can see, we have two people participating remotely from Silicon Valley, because this is the session where we're going to discuss how can our diaspora, our community of Portuguese people that have been living and born here in Portugal but now working abroad, or that have grown up abroad, how can we all pull together our resources and activate our diaspora to support Portugal's entrepreneurial DNA, to make our DNA more entrepreneurial oriented. And for that, we have today with us 5 people. So we have Tony and Jorge Fernandes, who, although they have the same last name, they're not related, but they are both Portuguese and Portuguese in origin, and they have both made their whole life and their whole career in the US. And then we have 3 Portuguese professionals that are a little bit there and here. So, not sure if you're a diaspora, but you're kind of in the middle. In between. Okay, you're not really here, you're just visiting, so there we go. And 2, Norberto and Pedro, also participating from San Francisco. Can you hear everything that I'm saying all right, Norberto, over there?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you perfectly. Great. So Tony's going to moderate this debate, and I'm just going to shut up and sit down.
Well, welcome. As Sophia said, this is intended and structured to be a bit of a debate about this topic. I think as we get into it, we're going to invite you to be part of this, because I think this will be most valuable as an interactive session. I think when questions start flying around and comments start flying around, I want to just send the word out that we should pay particular attention to our friends that are remotely, because they're obviously at a disadvantage in terms of attracting our attention. So hopefully we'll all do a good job of recognizing when they're speaking and wanting to say something, and we'll tune in. So, just to start off, tell you a little bit about my own experiences and maybe set a little context for this discussion and why this is an interesting topic for me. I emigrated, my parents emigrated to the US in 1970, that was a long time ago, and I was a really small child, and they moved to Massachusetts. And in Massachusetts, there's a significant Portuguese population in certain parts. And one of the things that I found was that the Portuguese kind of had a subculture that developed. In other words, they didn't completely assimilate into the population in my mind. I took a very contrary approach. I went out of my way to do everything that all the other Portuguese kids didn't do. So, for example, all the Portuguese kids played soccer. I joined the tennis team. All the Portuguese kids, wanted to do one thing. I always did the opposite, and because I didn't feel like I wanted to be encapsulated in that subculture, and and I bring that up because in this topic, when we're talking about, connecting to the Portuguese culture overseas, it's important to explore how much the desire is to again be insular. Or whether there's real value and what kinds of value that there's going to be in making these connections. So maybe a good way to start off is going to be to turn it to you to ask the kinds of questions that you're hoping are going to come up during this discussion. So you're not going to get the answers right away, but we'd love to get a sense of the kinds of things that you might be sitting there wondering. Yes?
So maybe I can start off. In a global world like we live today, we're 1 hour away from London and a few more to the US. Does it make sense from your perspective to be thinking what we should do as Portugal? Because we're talking about people, and we can all through an email or through Skype talk to someone in Silicon Valley. So does it make a point as a country or as a culture to be making an effort to improve that entrepreneurial?
So in other words, in a global context, does it even matter that you're Portuguese?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's an important topic and question.
So it's easy to understand how we could win from activating the diaspora, but my question is if you could specify the kind of things the diaspora could win from using Portuguese talent and Portuguese companies.
That's a
Probably
good
want
one.
to go into that.
Yes.
My question goes towards in how to engage that global network of Portuguese, that Portuguese global network. Was it clear?
Yes.
Do you feel in any way obliged to give back to Portugal any of the genetic content that made you where you are today?
Going back to the river where you spawned. Okay. What are the kinds of questions you think you're going to have?
What was the importance of having a Portuguese mother at home that made you who you are now?
My mother would be very interested in that question.
My question is like you had two cultures, the Portuguese one and the American one. And being being a member of those two cultures, how the joining of both marked you and developed you as a human being.
Okay, yes.
Yes, I have a similar story than you because my father and mother they went to France as immigrants, but I came when I was 9 years to Portugal, and I could not understand why I was in ways that Portuguese are not entrepreneurs because my view was that Portuguese are very entrepreneurs. Then I realized that they are outside, not here. Is it the same situation also in the USA? And why?
Okay, there's probably a good set of seed questions, I think, to begin with as a really broad variety of topics. So, you know, maybe a place to start just as part of this debate is, you know, why are we even talking about this topic? Why, when we think about Portuguese overseas, and thinking about getting help, presumably for your businesses, why is the diaspora important relative to just finding the best of breed expertise that's available independently of nationality? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
So, you know, hopefully when we're done today, you can all come to Sunnyvale. Those are all very, very good questions in terms of can you really get help and does it really matter, and you know, was it helpful to have a mother that was Portuguese? All those things, you know, the answer is no. And no, not in a negative way, but no in a positive way. So I've actually done this particular type of event here in Portugal for the last 5 or 6 years. So the good news, this is actually the first time I believe I'll actually be coming back sooner than later. And the reason is you first have to start with your own self. So whatever I'm saying, if you don't understand it, it doesn't matter. If there's a diaspora out there, and if you haven't elevated yourself to a point where you can understand, we're all wasting our time. And you know, frankly, you know, I'd rather go hunting or go fishing, you know, go do something else than you know, come back and say, hey, I've been there for the last 5, 6 years. I go there, I try to get people motivated, enthusiastic about saying, look, you know, you have a, there's no, essentially no difference between you guys and us, except that you know, you just not want to go and take the risk. So the point is a good point. There is some infrastructure out there. But as a startup, when I'm starting a company, and I've done many, many companies, I've been starting companies since 1987, and my school project in 1987 became an IPO. So we went from school all the way to an IPO without raising capital, and not once did it occur to me, oh, by the way, I have to go find some Portuguese people to join my company or to give me money, you know, or anything like that. And this was, you know, back in the 80s and early 90s, where even Silicon Valley was just beginning. In terms of, you know, there were not very many angel investors. There were not very many. There's a few VCs and so on and so forth. So I don't want to take up all the time on this answer. I do want to come back to it, but just my first pass at this answer is no. You should really be thinking about, do you really know what you're trying to accomplish, and do you know your customer? Where's your customer? And then I want to come back to that, but I want to pass a little bit of time.
So, I mean, going to the same question, maybe I would say, no, it doesn't matter if you're Portuguese or somewhere else. I mean, it doesn't matter where you start a company. I do think there are some things that are unique to Silicon Valley, and it's not just Portugal. It's I mean, there's no other place in the world where you have so much amount of money being invested in startups, and so in case you need that kind of money that you can't find here, for certain companies and certain ideas, I think you might need. You do need to be there. I mean, there's no replacement for being there because a lot of the investors there in Silicon Valley do not invest in companies outside the Valley or even outside the US. But that being said, I'd say if you have the kind of company that your customer is global, you don't need money, you can bootstrap. I mean, you can do it here, you can do it anywhere. I would say the only thing I feel like I've seen here a lot is that people focus a lot in the domestic market, and especially they focus a lot on services that are not that are hard to replicate abroad, that don't scale very well. And I think that's something that I feel like it changed a lot when I moved to Silicon Valley. Is the way people think about even when it's a service, the immediate thing is, how can I productize this service in a way that I can scale it easily if I want to go outside the small market.
So any of our friends overseas have any thoughts? Any initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many questions at the beginning. I suppose you're answering now why do this conference all together, right? Why do have a diaspora? What can they help? Is that correct? Is that the answer?
Yeah, sure.
Is that the question you're answering right now?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think at the very beginning, when someone doesn't have many contacts, wherever they go, I mean, it can be Silicon Valley or anywhere else in the world, it does help to have some initial points of connection with someone else, and the diaspora is a place to start, as are say the university you're in or other points that connect you to other people, to other values. In my case in particular, when I came to Berkeley, like Silicon Valley, for doing startups, I, for example,
my second company that I started here, I did have some help from another Portuguese was doing master in computer science at Berkeley. So, for example, in that sense, there was some connection there that prompted me to ask him for help instead of asking some other friends that I could have asked. On the other hand, it's good to have people in other industries that you have a connection to. So the diaspora, by its own definition, it's defined by the let's say core identity and nationality of the people, and therefore they are spread in all different kinds of industries. You might have people that are, say, doing biotechnology or research and marketing, and they're not connected to you because of a functional level, but because of these events that you go from time to time, say for having dinner or having some beers and talk some Portuguese. So in that sense, it spreads out your network, and you don't isolate yourself from certain industry or function, which I think is very important, adds value to your network. If for whatever reason I need a contact in Berkeley, I can go and talk with my PhD contacts at Berkeley or Stanford and ask them for help, other than ask such a general person. But I would agree that in terms of say starting a company and being Portuguese or not being Portuguese, it doesn't help much, it doesn't harm much either. If you're from other nationalities, say if you would be Israeli or say Dutch or Swedish, there might be other support networks that really do give you a lot of help here in Silicon Valley. There's, for example, the Silicon Vikings, which I'm actually part of because I lived in Sweden many years. And they do help you, I think, more than the Portuguese community, simply because they're more and they have a structure But I think, by us, for example, being here and you guys here in the audience, I'm always open to when some Portuguese contacts me, say from the university in Portugal, and ask for help. I'm always there to willing to help. I would do that to anyone that contact me, but I believe that I have a special obligation to help other people that perhaps want to come to Silicon Valley and didn't have the chance. I moved 24 times in my whole life, and I know it's a hassle in the beginning to move to another place and to just start the contacts, and any spark of initial connection there can make a huge difference. Just even to know what it is to open a bank account, how it is to do the articles of incorporation, incorporate in Delaware or incorporate in California. There's tons of little small details that just to have someone that can help you there without having to pay a lawyer or something, it's a help, and I'm here to help. Anyone can contact me anytime, and I think in that sense, it's important to have a diaspora.
Okay, and maybe we can now get into some of the specific questions. Just throw this out to the panelists. There was a question of this feeling of responsibility to give back. So how do you guys, and I'm hoping for a total honesty here, not the politically correct answer. How do you feel about that issue?
This is Pedro.
Oh.
So I actually feel very strongly about it, and this is related with the previous topic, or the previous question, which is why are we doing this, or why do we need this session? And I've been here in the Valley for 8 years, and I've met a lot of Portuguese, and I can tell you that not all of them are actually interested in being part of the diaspora, and not all of them are being part in helping, giving back to the country. So I think that all in all, this is a very personal topic, and this goes back to how much or how strongly you feel that your country needs your help and how much you want to give back. And I think that the reason Norberto and I are on the call today, there's probably other people out there, is that we do want help. And so a lot of this is about community here, or infrastructure, or just putting things in place that help people move here and have success here. Part of it is just helping set things back in Portugal with our expertise and our experience here. That helps create value in the country too.
Yeah, I will add three. There are 3 points in my opinion that make sense to answer that question. Number one is your personal connection to the identity of the country. Some people are more connected to the identity of Portugal. Some people are less. Personally, I would say I'm actually less, but I do feel a strong need to give back, not to Portugal in itself, but to the people who want to get out of the country in general. So I think that's a very common thing in entrepreneurs. They really are very approachable. People that went out of their ways to create startups, they're often very open to help other entrepreneurs. They see themselves as mentors, and they've gone through the path. It's a very difficult path, and people who are willing to do the plunge, they should be supported, no matter which country they come from. So that's that aspect. The other thing is, there are things that are very particular to Portuguese that you might help. For example, the visa. I had if you see my passport, I have 5 US visas, and it's been because, it's a difficult process, the whole visa, and different countries, even within Europe, have different visa possibilities for entrepreneurs for Europe. For example, there's the investor's visa that France or Germany, with $100,000, you can create that, but Portugal doesn't have that connection, for example. So there's very particular things that are depending on the country, and I have a lot of experience with that. So in those particular things, I've been even more willing to tell what does it mean for a Portuguese to come to the US.
In here.
high-tech companies. And I'm the only high-tech person there. All the other local Portuguese were invited were restaurant owners, construction owners, agriculture owners, and I'm like, so if I'm an entrepreneur coming from Portugal to here, and I'm talking to people that are doing restaurants and agriculture and other stuff that have nothing to do with the high-tech, those people are and there's a disservice to those people coming out here. And I just hate you guys to fall into the same trap. You should go to Silicon Valley, you should go reach out to people regardless, and you should feel strong enough that you can do it.
So I would say, that's a good question, but I have I don't feel I have to give back. But I do think that just like Norberto said, I feel open to, very open to help whoever needs and ask for help. So I do not think that I have to be proactive coming back and telling people or evangelizing or doing whatever. But that being said, if someone goes and you feel, but the initiative has to come from you. I mean, you have to start that. You have to have the willingness to go there, just like what you said. You have to go there, look for people who can help you. And that, if I can be of any help, I'm totally open. But I have no. I feel I do not feel obligated to give back.
And the help can be, hey George, how do I get some money? Because I know that's not what you need to begin with. Okay, so you're asking the wrong question. So that's just to add to my previous comment. Can't be the first question or the second.
So, for me, I'm kind of a mixed bag, and I feel like I've changed over time in terms of my view. I do feel, I think that there's a tremendous amount of potential in this country, in you individually. I think, in some ways, I think for a variety of conditions, and perhaps, just in terms of governmental influences, etc., I think it's sometimes hard for people here to maybe achieve what's really achievable. And so I personally, I think as evidenced by the fact that we're here, there's some level of commitment. But I think in a way what George was talking about is, I think one of the things that it took my parents a while to really understand when they went to the United States is that it's really the land of opportunity. And opportunity doesn't mean gift. Opportunity means you get the chance to work hard and make something happen for yourself. Nobody's going to give you anything. And, I think what should be really clear in your minds isn't about how Portuguese overseas might make life easier for you. It's how you're going to get something done. And whether it involves somebody who's Portuguese or whether it involves somebody who's Australian, it doesn't really matter. You really should be looking for the expertise that you need, the contacts that you need. And, there is a language barrier. I think there are instances where, Portuguese that are overseas can be really helpful just in terms of the information they can provide. But in general, I don't think it's reasonable to expect gifts. It's really about you taking the initiative, and I think people feeling like, okay, they've taken the initiative, they need this one small piece of information, I can give them that, and that's cool, All right, so we had a question about, yes?
Just wanted to ask if those feelings of not being obligated to give back is something due to the lack of network there is between Portuguese communities abroad, or is just something that's on a more personal level? Because most of you are entrepreneurs and you made it for yourselves, right? So you think there's no need for me to, like you said, being this, giving something like a gift for other people that go there. The question is it because the network, is it because it's personal, or is it sometimes both?
So one of the things the first point I don't really understand is the lack of network. There is a network, or at least a reasonable network of Portuguese people in the Valley. I know those two guys that are on Skype call, and I know a few more people. And it's not about the network or lack of network. It's about is about the initiative. Why would I go back and proactively try to offer my help if you don't want my help? Right? So the initiative has to come from you. You have to be the first one to give that step and show that you're actually doing something. And exactly what Jorge was saying, is like, it's not like just picking up the phone and say, hey, do you have money for me? Right? That's not the first question, right? You have to do something, prove that you're interested, that you're committed, and once you do that, then you're going to see it's not about being Portuguese or not being Portuguese. I think if you go to Silicon Valley, that's one of the great things about Silicon Valley is that the second you get there, if you show that commitment, that level of interest and initiative, people will help you. And the fact that you're Portuguese, I mean, yeah, then you might have access because it's more likely that you know someone who knows me than you know someone who knows Israeli guy, to say something. But that's just it. That's the only difference.
And just to add one thing you guys don't understand is the community, say for example in San Francisco, if you look at the average age of how long ago those Portuguese were in Portugal, and then you go there, it's going to be a complete shock to you. They're still playing the same song that was on the radio the day they left here. Okay? And how can that help you? It really can't. Right? Because we haven't had immigration to Portugal or people from Portugal with high-tech experiences go internationally. So the infrastructure that you believe exists, that doesn't really exist. The same thing with language. You know, se eu começo a falar em português, vocês ficam a realizar exatamente que o meu português é o português quando eu saí daqui. And that's the problem. The problem is that until, just like when I was here 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and it was clear to me that no matter how hard I tried, the people that were here weren't ready to have the help. We don't have enough Portuguese in Silicon Valley to be able to say, look, now we can make a difference. And it would be foolish for me to tell you that. It would be, in fact, would be a disservice. Whether or not, in my heart, I want to do that. You know, being out there, being in the middle of nowhere, and having to defend yourself, you have to think about it as opposed to feel about it. Now we can talk about feelings and all that stuff, but maybe you have to have some wine to do that. So don't get me wrong. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is Pedro. Can I just interject for a second? I think it would be cool to turn it back to the audience for like a minute and actually get ideas as to how the audience thinks the Portuguese here in the Valley can help, like today, without a formal structure still in place, which we hope will, get put together after the visit from the Secretary of State.
So I'm half Portuguese, half American, and I've lived here since 2 years. And I came to Portugal to start my company, and I'm now realizing I'm just running against a brick wall in terms of growth and expanding. And how I feel that that context outside could help someone like me would be to really, on a personal level, open some doors in terms of be it funding, be it connections that can help the business. And I think that's something that we were looking for. And it's really, it's tough for me to say because I just lived here for 2 years, right? So, but I came to start it, and I've had the opportunity to start my own business. But now I'm at a stage where I need to get out of here.
But you say in here, how we can help you come here?
No, grow by growing.
Oh, but
in my case,
to my point is that the difference between your move and the opposite move is that if you do the same in Silicon Valley, I think those doors would be open a lot. You can open a lot more doors with just asking for help, as long as you show the level of commitment and you show that you're actually serious about what you're doing. I think that's.
But there is a limit. I think Portugal as a very social society, there's a lot of camaraderie and connection. And one of the things that I've run into in dealing with Portuguese companies and making connections is I feel like I'm not talking about you guys, of course. I'm talking about other people that I've met. That there's an assumption that you'll just call up a VC that you know, or you'll call up a major executive that you know because somebody from Portugal contacted and say, hey, put me in touch with this kind of person. And there's not a realization that your credibility in the Valley has a lot to do with who you bring in front of people, who you don't bring in front of people, right? So if you come to one of us and say, hey, make this contact for me, get me talking to somebody at Google, and we, I'll say I don't want to speak for them, but I don't believe that you really do have something solid, that you really have thought through it, that you have something really relevant for these people, then you're going to just be impacting my credibility, and I'm not going to do it. It's just as simple as that. And I feel like there's a lot of people that I've met in Portugal that don't see that need. You know, the fact that you just don't take anybody and go up to them and say blah 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 blah. You know, you need to have a well-formed idea. And you know, most recently I had an experience with a Portuguese company where I did facilitate, you know, some of the contacts in terms of some VC stuff, and in some ways I feel like I got a little burned, you know, and so I just want to throw that out there.
What do you mean by burned?
By burned, like, you know, wow, we thought this guy was going to bring us quality people, and now he brought in, you know, this, like, you know, what is this? You wasted my time. I'm not going to believe that you're going to bring me somebody that that's really important, you know.
And by burden, you can just like you don't reply to emails. And you're burning your contact.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So, and it drives me nuts more than anything is when the Portuguese people, the government's going to take care of it. Nothing upsets me the most. Are you kidding me? That's why we are successful in Silicon Valley, because essentially you get to do whatever you want. If you succeed, fine. If you repurpose yourself, which is my version of failing, there's no such thing as failing. It's just you. Why would you ever want to depend on somebody else? By nature, being an entrepreneur means that you don't want to depend on somebody else. Now you're telling me, oh yeah, I'll wait until the government opens its office in Silicon Valley, or until, are you kidding me? It just drives me nuts, and I hear that over and over. So to me, it isn't until I stop hearing that. You know, again, I've had the luxury of coming back here time and time again. So I'm very excited. You guys are making progress, but you're being told the wrong thing. You're being told that somebody's going to do it for you, and I have news for you guys. It ain't happening. You have to do it for yourselves. That's the definition of entrepreneur. Otherwise, keep your day job, or stay working with the government.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, George, that my experience in the past has been, I feel like the Portuguese entrepreneurs trying to get here to the Valley, they need more help trying to understand what they need to tell a VC, what they need to get ready before they talk to VC, than actually making the connection to the VC. And so that's what I try to help the most.
Yeah, another thing is the level of the connection you bring, not in terms of the importance of the person, but more about the type of talk that's expected. For example, if someone asks me to connect to a VC, I mean, unless I know that person really well, unless I believe in the project really strongly, it's very unlikely I'm going to give that connection again, because I don't want to harm my own reputation, and you know, I hope to maintain a relationship with the VCs that I know for a longer period. But what I think is very easy to do is the information interview. So the information interview contact is an easy, soft way to start and start having a network here and discussing things without harming the connection so much. So you basically just say, okay, this guy needs help. This is an industry that, you know, he would like to explore, he'd like to understand how things are done here. Can you help him out, like talk about your industry? The most important thing, and this is absolutely critical, is that the person you give the connection to, he can't be selling his company, he can't be selling himself, he can't be asking for money. It's really about helping, like an entrepreneur, getting help from someone that's more seasoned, but the social aspect about being helped has to be kept there. It cannot be jumped into selling or promoting yourself. And I'm not sure that informational interview, for example, as a concept, exists in Portugal at all. But here is the most common thing, that I personally have experienced.
Well, actually, there's a gentleman way against the wall with raised hands.
The question I would like to ask is, like, would you act as a filter? I'm going to explain the idea. You said that you're not going to introduce someone because you don't want to burn your reputation. But if someone gets to you and tells you, I have this idea, I have this project, and shows the project to you, and you believe in the project, as saying so, you would be able to do that connection.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I think the easy answer is to say no. But just so you know, I mean, the rigor that it would take for that to happen, just in theory, just so you know, I mean, you sit in front of a VC, they want to see a plan of how you're going to generate, hundreds of millions of dollars in a short period of time. And if you're not showing up with a plan of how you're going to achieve that, it doesn't matter what the idea is. It doesn't matter how cool it is. There's no way that funding is going to come out of their pockets. So for somebody, a VC would not be the right place. Unless you set up a meeting like it's being discussed, where it's purely informational, just like, what do you think about this concept? Almost, as a consumer. But in terms of a serious funding meeting, the expectation is really high in terms of what they would be wanting to see. And I have yet to have the experience of seeing a Portuguese company with something that detailed, to be honest with you. Maybe it's just a matter of there's a missing model to follow to see what that really looks like. And maybe that's part of the information that can be provided through venues like this, of what that really looks like, of what a successful pitch really looks like in the Valley.
So I want to disagree with Tony. I do that all the time. And the point I'm trying to make, I don't do it because you're Portuguese. I do it because I'm curious. Because I often find myself that when I'm talking to somebody that's very, very creative, it also helps me being creative. And one of the cultures in Silicon Valley is that everyone talks to everyone. Everyone shares their idea because everyone has figured out that by talking to others, regardless of their ethnicity, they get an additional component to their idea. So I would love if all of you guys send me an email with all your ideas. I guarantee you I'll reply to you some thoughtful responses. Some you may not like to hear, but I'm happy to do that. I don't have a problem doing that. But not because you're Portuguese, because you're going to add something to change the world, something of value. And if you have something of value, send it to me. If you don't. Even if it's an initial idea, I don't care. I do it at Santa Clara University. I do it also almost once every quarter, where I mentor a group of students that are finishing their MBA through their business, all the way to some even starting their business. So I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. That's just, I enjoy doing it, but for a completely different reason than you guys are expecting. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Don't come from the angle that you're Portuguese or you're in Lisbon or in Portugal. Come from the angle is, I want to change the world. Who's out there that wants to join me? If you want to do that, fine. If you don't, keep your day job.
So one point of clarification, since George trashed me over here, was that it's the difference between giving that kind of advice and opening doors. That's what I'm talking about. Being expected to put you in front of somebody else where the feeling is that you're not prepared and you're not really in a credible situation.
And to kind of bridge what Norberto was saying before, is it all depends on what you're asking for, right? If you're asking for a meeting with a VC, a funding meeting with a VC, that's going to be really hard to get on like hey, again, like it's not a call like how can I get money, right? But if you're asking for an informational meeting, if you're asking for feedback, it all depends on what you're asking for. And so that's, I think, more what you were saying is about. If you're asking for feedback, I'm going to give you feedback. Maybe it's exactly. You might like it, you might not like it, but it's going to be useful. And yeah, it's step by step.
Just build the bridge to the VC, not just get the meeting, but I have this idea, my project is this, how can I evolve to get a real presentable project for a VC?
So I know.
Go up another step.
So that's another question that drives me crazy. Is how do I go get money? Go to the bank. If you were to send me a really cool idea, say, by the way, George, how do you put me in the path to get money? There's 2 or 3 steps before you even get there. The first step, I'll put you is to who's your customer? Because I know the questions the VCs are going to ask. So I can, long before you show up in front of VC, I have a pretty good idea if you should even bother wasting the VC's time. And one of the first things I would encourage you to do, if you were to ask my opinion on your idea, and I thought your idea had some merit, is to actually go and see if you can get a customer. And you've heard of vaporware and productware and all these smoke screen types of products that come out of Silicon Valley. There's a reason why entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley do it. Because if you show up at a customer and you describe your idea to your customer, just an idea, and the customer gives you a $25,000 check, what does that tell you about your idea? It's no good, right? He gave you a check, exactly. So I guarantee you it's easier to get money from a customer than it is to get from a VC. So you have you're the CEO of the company, you just started your company, you have to ask yourself a question. What is going to add more value to my company? And by the way, if you ever raise money, you spend all your time. Raising money is a full-time job. So you have to say, look, am I going to do my full-time job going up and down Sand Hill Road, or am I going to go and find a customer anywhere in the globe?
The brutal reality is that people won't give you money if they don't see that you're completely committed. And so the issue is about how do you build a successful business. It isn't about how do I go get a pile of money to make me feel like I can kind of sit on my laurels for a while and it's all going to be okay. The only way you're going to get money in a way is to, in a sense, prove that you don't need it. Because you're building a business, you are getting customers, and now this is an opportunity where somebody can benefit from the success that you're having. It isn't okay, I'm only going to move if somebody gives me everything that I need and it's all going to be safe. You're going to have to, walk out into the jungle naked. And the only way that somebody's going to take you seriously is like, okay, they were willing to go through there and they came out on the other side, okay, there's something there. It's not the people that are like, I don't know, if I get a Jeep and a suit of armor, maybe I'll go 10 feet in. They're not interested in talking to those people.
So to just kind of wrap up my feeling about all these government initiatives, 99% of the time the government, and I've been to those that come to California, is, we don't have a venture capital community in our country. Well, if I can make the case to you that as a startup, the most important thing to you is a customer, how can the government claim that they understand entrepreneurship when they're saying the most important thing is a venture capital environment? There's a disconnect. Because if you have a customer, they pay you. If they pay you, you pay your bills. If you pay your bills, you get another customer. Where is the VC in this path? Nowhere. So go get a customer. Don't worry about the VCs. As Tony's saying, when you get money is when you don't need the money, even a VC, especially in today's world. Just to think about how a VC thinks, and one of the VCs mentioned that this morning, is the best investment from a VC is they invest today and get their money out tomorrow. A company that you're thinking about is you get money today and you grow the company for the next 5 years. Do you see a problem in those two issues? You want money to grow your company, VC wants to give you money so next day they can get 10 times their money back.
Okay, we're going to do one last question and we have to wrap it up. We're already over time. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to focus the debate again on the cultural level, because someone asked the question about why do you think that when Portuguese are abroad, they work twice as much, or they work, you said that Portuguese tend to lean on the government sometimes in order for things to happen. From your perspective, being, I don't want to say outsider, but knowing both cultures, what do you think that makes the difference when you're Portuguese abroad and Portuguese living here.
The Portuguese mother.
It's natural selection, right? If you're willing to go abroad and start your life over in a different country, different city, you're more likely to work twice as much if you're not willing to do that. So, well, it's just a different sample.
I'm going to say that it's you're out of your comfort zone, and I think in an immigrant experience, you're scrapping and striving to survive. You're in an alien environment. You're most likely, you've had financial obstacles in front of you, and you have no choice, right? And in an environment where it's very safe and comfortable, it's harder to just get motivated. I mean, you have to, in a way, force yourself to get uncomfortable. You have to get beyond that comfort level, and I think that's one of the reasons why that dynamic takes place. Any thoughts from remote folks on that issue? Yes? No?
Okay. Yeah, I think, I think that's the core point is really the life-changing experience that it is to be without money. If you're in the US, we're having visa issues and feeling that you're not in your comfort zone. That forces you to look at life with very different eyes, and that changes you. So even if you're not predisposed to that, once you did the job, you'll be a different person. You'll never be the same person again. And in the US, in that sense, it's still an easy place, because I assume that if you go to China or Russia or some other place where it's even culturally more different, you'll be change even stronger. You have to be even more commitment. And if you make it through, then you have proven yourself as someone that can fight and hang on to an idea, hang on to a dream. And ultimately, that's what makes entrepreneurs. It's like believing in a dream, fighting for it, and fighting against all adversity, and just move on. And only give up if you're really hungry and don't have any place to sleep that night. That's, you fight till the end.
Well, with that, we're going to draw this to an end, and thank you so much for coming. Hopefully you've gotten some interesting insights from, very honest insights from us. So thank you.